Sarah Martinez had always been different from other girls in her small Texas town. While her classmates played with dolls, she spent hours in the woods with her grandfather, learning to track deer and hit targets with his old hunting rifle. Her steady hands and sharp eyes made her a natural shooter, but nobody expected those skills would one day change the course of a war. Growing up on a ranch taught Sarah patience and discipline. Every morning before school, she helped her father with the cattle. Every evening, she practiced shooting tin cans off fence posts. Her grandfather, a Vietnam veteran, noticed her talent early on. He taught her about wind direction, breathing control, and the importance of staying calm under pressure. Sarah absorbed every lesson like a sponge. When Sarah turned 18, the country was at war. Military recruiters visited her high school, looking for young people willing to serve. Most of her female classmates ignored them, but Sarah felt drawn to the idea of serving her country. Her parents worried about their only daughter joining the military, but they knew Sarah had always been determined to follow her own path. Basic training was harder than Sarah expected. The drill sergeants pushed every recruit to their limits, but they pushed the women even harder. Sarah faced constant doubt from male soldiers who believed women had no place in combat roles. She endured their jokes and skeptical looks while outperforming most of them in marksmanship tests. Her scores were so high that her commanding officers began to take notice. During advanced infantry training, Sarah's exceptional shooting abilities caught the attention of Special Forces recruiters. They invited her to try out for an elite sniper program, something that had never been offered to a woman before. The selection process was brutal. For 3 weeks, Sarah crawled through mud, carried heavy equipment for miles, and took precision shots in extreme weather conditions. Many male candidates dropped out, but Sarah pushed through every challenge. The sniper school was located in a remote desert facility, where temperatures reached over 100 degrees during the day and dropped below freezing at night. Sarah learned advanced camouflage techniques, how to remain motionless for hours, and how to calculate shots across distances of over a mile. She studied enemy tactics, memorized the layouts of foreign cities, and practiced shooting from helicopters and moving vehicles. Her instructors were amazed by Sarah's natural ability to remain calm under stress. While other students panicked during simulated combat scenarios, Sarah's heart rate barely increased. She could hit targets that other snipers couldn't even see. Her shooting scores broke several training records, but she faced constant resistance from fellow soldiers who resented having a woman in their ranks. After 6 months of intensive training, Sarah graduated at the top of her class. She was assigned to a special operations unit, preparing for deployment to a war-torn region where enemy forces had gained significant ground. The mission briefings painted a grim picture of heavily fortified enemy positions and sophisticated anti-aircraft defenses that made traditional airstrikes ineffective. Sarah's unit consisted of 12 elite soldiers, each with specialized skills. There was Marcus, the explosives expert who could disable any bomb or create devastating charges from common materials. James handled communications and electronic surveillance, able to intercept enemy radio transmissions and hack their computer systems. David was the medic, who had saved dozens of lives under fire. Sarah was the only woman in the group, and some team members openly questioned whether she belonged there. The unit's commanding officer was Colonel Thompson, a decorated Navy SEAL with 20 years of combat experience. He had initially opposed including a woman in his unit but agreed to give Sarah a chance after reviewing her training scores. Thompson was known for his direct communication style and his ability to make split-second decisions that saved lives. He warned Sarah that she would need to prove herself every day and that he wouldn't show her any special treatment. Before deployment, the unit spent weeks studying intelligence reports about their target area. Enemy forces were led by 3 high-ranking generals who had proven to be brilliant military strategists. These generals had successfully repelled multiple attacks and seemed to anticipate every move by Allied forces. Intelligence suggested they were planning a major offensive that could shift the balance of the entire war. The generals operated from a heavily fortified compound, built into the side of a mountain. The facility was surrounded by multiple layers of security, including armed guards, motion sensors, and anti-aircraft weapons. Previous attempts to infiltrate or attack the compound had failed miserably, resulting in significant casualties and no meaningful damage to enemy operations. Sarah studied satellite photos of the compound for hours each day, memorizing every detail of the landscape. She calculated potential shooting positions, wind patterns, and escape routes. The more she learned about the target, the more she realized how challenging this mission would be. The generals rarely appeared in the open, and when they did, they were surrounded by bodyguards and moved quickly between buildings. The intelligence team provided detailed profiles of each general. The first was General Kozlov, a former Special Forces officer known for his ruthless tactics and strategic brilliance. He had never been defeated in battle and was considered the most dangerous of the three leaders. The second was General Hassan, an expert in guerrilla warfare who had successfully organized resistance movements in multiple countries. The third was General Chen, a logistics specialist who ensured enemy forces always had adequate supplies and equipment. As deployment day approached, Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. This would be her first real combat mission, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Failure would mean the deaths of countless Allied soldiers and civilians. Success could change the course of the war and save thousands of lives. She spent her final nights before deployment writing letters to her family, knowing she might never see them again. The night before they left, Colonel Thompson gathered the entire unit for a final briefing. He explained that their mission was classified at the highest levels, and that even their families wouldn't know their real location or objectives. The team would be inserted by helicopter under cover of darkness, and would have to trek through enemy territory for 3 days to reach their target position. Sarah checked and rechecked her equipment one final time. Her rifle was a custom-built precision instrument capable of accurate shots at distances over 2 miles. She carried specialized ammunition designed to penetrate body armor and ballistic glass. Her scope could function in complete darkness and adjust automatically for wind and atmospheric conditions. Every piece of gear had been tested and maintained to perfection. The helicopter ride to the insertion point was tense and quiet. Sarah could feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders as she looked out at the dark landscape below. Enemy territory stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction, filled with soldiers who would kill her and her teammates without hesitation. She focused on her breathing and visualization exercises, preparing mentally for what lay ahead. When the helicopter touched down in a remote valley, the team quickly unloaded their equipment and watched the aircraft disappear into the night sky. They were now completely on their own, surrounded by enemy forces and facing a mission that most military experts considered impossible. Sarah shouldered her pack and followed her teammates into the darkness, knowing that the next few days would test everything she had learned and determine whether she truly belonged among the world's elite warriors. The first day of their trek took them through dense forest, where every sound could indicate the presence of enemy patrols. They moved in single file, communicating only through hand signals and staying alert for signs of danger. Sarah carried not only her sniper rifle but also a full combat load of ammunition, supplies, and survival gear. The weight was considerable, but her ranch upbringing had given her the strength and endurance to keep up with her male teammates. As they moved deeper into enemy territory, Sarah began to understand why so many previous missions had failed. The landscape was perfectly suited for defense, with countless hiding spots for enemy soldiers and natural barriers that channeled attacking forces into kill zones. Every ridge, every valley, and every forest could conceal threats that wouldn't be visible until it was too late to escape. By the end of the first day, they had covered 15 miles without being detected. They established a hidden camp in a rocky outcropping where they could rest without being seen from the air or ground. Sarah took the first watch while her teammates tried to get a few hours of sleep. She scanned the surrounding area through her night vision scope, looking for any movement that might indicate enemy activity. During her watch, Sarah reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. From a small-town girl who loved to hunt with her grandfather to an elite Special Forces sniper preparing for one of the most dangerous missions of the war. She thought about her family back home and wondered if they were proud of her choices or simply worried about her safety. Either way, she was committed to completing this mission and proving that she deserved her place among America's finest warriors. The second day of their journey proved far more challenging than the first. As Sarah and her team moved deeper into enemy territory, they encountered their first real obstacle, a heavily patrolled valley that they needed to cross to reach their target position. Colonel Thompson studied the area through binoculars, while the team waited in a concealed position among the rocks. Enemy soldiers moved in regular patterns through the valley, but their timing seemed random enough to make predicting safe crossing windows nearly impossible. Sarah counted at least 30 guards visible at any given time, with more likely hidden in prepared positions throughout the area. The team would need to wait for the perfect moment and move with absolute precision to avoid detection. Marcus, the explosives expert, suggested creating a distraction on the far side of the valley to draw guards away from their intended crossing point. Colonel Thompson considered the option, but decided the risk was too great. Any explosion would alert the entire enemy force to their presence, and likely result in massive search operations that would make their mission impossible to complete. David, the team medic, noticed that enemy patrols seemed to follow a slightly predictable pattern every few hours when they changed shifts. During these transition periods, there was a brief window where guard coverage was reduced in certain areas. Sarah studied the pattern through her scope and agreed that this might represent their best opportunity to cross undetected. The team waited through the afternoon and into early evening for the next shift change. Sarah used this time to study the enemy soldiers through her scope, noting their equipment, discipline level, and apparent training. Most appeared to be well-equipped regular army troops, but she also spotted what looked like elite special forces units positioned at key points throughout the valley. As the sun began to set, the anticipated shift change began to occur. Enemy soldiers moved in small groups toward central positions, where they could be relieved by fresh troops. Sarah and her teammates prepared to move, checking their equipment one final time, and reviewing their planned route across the valley floor. The crossing took nearly 2 hours of careful movement from one concealed position to another. Sarah's heart pounded as they crept past enemy positions, sometimes coming within 50 yards of armed guards. Her training in camouflage and silent movement proved invaluable as they navigated through areas where a single misplaced step could alert dozens of enemy soldiers. Halfway across the valley, they encountered an unexpected obstacle: a new patrol that wasn't following the established pattern they had observed. 3 enemy soldiers were moving directly toward their position, forcing the team to take cover behind a cluster of large boulders. Sarah could hear their voices getting closer, and knew that discovery would likely mean death for the entire team. Colonel Thompson made quick hand signals indicating that they should prepare for close combat if necessary. But he wanted to avoid engagement if possible. Sarah slowly positioned her rifle and acquired sight pictures on each of the approaching soldiers while her teammates prepared their weapons. The tension was unbearable as enemy voices grew louder and footsteps approached their hiding spot. Just when it seemed like discovery was inevitable, something distracted the patrol and they changed direction. Sarah later learned that a wild animal had triggered motion sensors in another area, drawing the guards' attention away from their position. Sometimes, luck played as important a role as skill in special operations missions. The team completed their valley crossing as darkness fell completely. They had successfully penetrated deep into enemy territory without being detected, but their most challenging obstacles still lay ahead. The target compound was visible in the distance, its lights creating an ominous glow against the mountainside. Sarah estimated they were still 8 miles from their intended shooting position. The third day required them to climb steep mountain terrain while staying hidden from enemy observation posts. Sarah's physical conditioning was tested to its limits as they ascended rocky slopes while carrying full combat loads. The thin mountain air made breathing difficult, and the temperature dropped significantly as they gained elevation. During their climb, they discovered that enemy forces had established more security positions than intelligence reports had indicated. Sarah counted at least 12 new guard posts that weren't shown on their maps, each one capable of detecting movement across large areas of the mountainside. The mission was becoming more dangerous with each passing hour. Colonel Thompson called for a temporary halt to reassess their situation. The increased enemy presence meant that their original plan might no longer be viable. They needed to find a new approach that would allow Sarah to get within effective shooting range while still providing a reasonable chance of escape after the mission was completed. James, the communications specialist, managed to intercept enemy radio transmissions that provided valuable intelligence about guard schedules and patrol routes. The information revealed that the 3 target generals were scheduled to attend a planning meeting the following morning at a location that might provide Sarah with a clear shot opportunity. Sarah studied the new target location through her scope and realized that it would require an extremely challenging shot. The distance was at the very edge of her effective range, and the target area was partially concealed by trees and buildings. Wind conditions at that elevation would be unpredictable, and she would have only seconds to engage multiple targets before enemy forces responded. The team spent the night in a concealed position while Sarah calculated ballistic solutions for the anticipated shot. She considered factors like atmospheric pressure, temperature, humidity, and estimated wind speeds. The mathematics involved were complex, but her training had prepared her to make these calculations quickly and accurately under pressure. As dawn approached, Sarah moved into her final shooting position on a ridge overlooking the target compound. The location provided excellent concealment and a clear view of the meeting area, but it also left her with limited escape routes if the mission went wrong. She settled into position and began her final preparations. Her teammates positioned themselves to provide security and cover her withdrawal after the shot. Marcus placed explosive charges on nearby enemy communication equipment to disrupt their ability to coordinate a response. James prepared to monitor enemy radio frequencies for early warning of counterattacks. David ensured his medical supplies were ready, in case anyone was wounded during their escape. Through her scope, Sarah could see enemy soldiers moving throughout the compound as they prepared for the morning meeting. Security was heavy, with guards posted at regular intervals and multiple layers of defensive positions. She identified several potential threats that could interfere with her shot, including roving patrols and stationary observation posts. At exactly 9 o'clock in the morning, the three target generals emerged from different buildings and began walking toward the meeting location. Sarah tracked them through her scope, noting their movement patterns and the positions of their bodyguards. This was the moment she had trained for throughout her entire military career. General Kozlov appeared first, walking confidently across an open courtyard with 4 bodyguards surrounding him. He seemed completely unaware that he was being watched by a sniper positioned over a mile away. Sarah placed her crosshairs on his center mass and began controlling her breathing as she had been taught. General Hassan emerged from a second building and began walking toward the same meeting point. His route would take him across Sarah's field of view for only a few seconds, requiring precise timing to engage both targets effectively. Sarah calculated the lead time required for her second shot while maintaining her sight picture on the first target. General Chen was the last to appear, and his path to the meeting location was partially obscured by trees and buildings. Sarah would need to anticipate his position and fire at a point where he would be visible for only a brief moment. The complexity of engaging 3 moving targets at extreme range would test every skill she had developed. Colonel Thompson's voice came through her earpiece with final confirmation that all 3 targets were in position and that the team was ready to provide covering fire during her withdrawal. Sarah felt her heart rate slow as her training took over, and she entered the focused mental state that separated elite snipers from ordinary soldiers. The moment of truth had arrived. Sarah had spent months preparing for this shot, and now she had only seconds to execute a mission that could change the course of the entire war. The 3 most dangerous enemy commanders were within her sights, and her finger moved slowly toward the trigger of her rifle. Sarah's first shot rang out across the mountain valley at exactly 9:17 a.m. The bullet traveled over a mile through thin mountain air before finding its target with devastating precision. General Kozlov, the most feared enemy commander, dropped immediately as chaos erupted throughout the compound below. His bodyguards spun around frantically, trying to locate the source of the attack while enemy soldiers began running in all directions. Without hesitation, Sarah smoothly worked the bolt of her rifle and acquired her second target. General Hassan had frozen in place when he heard the shot, making him an easier target than she had anticipated. Her second bullet found its mark 3 seconds after the first, and the second general fell to the ground as his security team scrambled for cover. General Chen had begun running toward a nearby building when he heard the gunfire, but Sarah had anticipated this reaction. She led her target perfectly, calculating his speed and direction while accounting for the bullet's travel time. Her third shot struck him just as he reached what he thought was safety, completing one of the most remarkable sniper achievements in military history. The entire engagement lasted less than 15 seconds, but those few moments changed everything. Enemy forces throughout the compound were in complete disarray, their command structure shattered by the loss of their 3 most experienced leaders. Sarah immediately began packing her equipment As enemy soldiers finally started to realize that the shots had come from the distant ridge, Colonel Thompson's voice crackled through her earpiece, confirming all 3 kills and ordering immediate withdrawal. The team had planned their escape route carefully, but they knew that enemy forces would soon begin searching every possible sniper position. They needed to move fast and stay ahead of what would certainly be a massive manhunt. Marcus detonated his charges on the enemy communication equipment just as they began to leave their position. The explosions disrupted enemy radio communications for several crucial minutes, buying the team valuable time to begin their escape. Smoke and debris filled the compound below as Sarah and her teammates disappeared into the rocky terrain above the ridge. The descent from their shooting position required them to move much faster than they had during their approach. Enemy helicopters would soon be searching the mountains, and ground forces would be following every possible escape route. Sarah's legs burned from the rapid pace, but she kept up with her teammates as they bounded from one concealed position to another. James intercepted frantic enemy radio transmissions, confirming that all 3 generals were dead. The loss of their leadership had created immediate confusion about who was in command and what actions to take. Some units were being ordered to search for the sniper team while others were told to defend their positions against possible follow-up attacks. The team's training in escape and evasion proved essential as they navigated through increasingly hostile territory. They avoided several enemy patrols by using alternate routes and moving during periods when aircraft weren't overhead. Sarah's experience in reading terrain helped them find concealed paths that didn't appear on any maps. By midday, they had covered nearly 10 miles from their shooting position. Enemy search efforts were becoming more organized, with helicopters conducting systematic sweeps of the mountain region. The team took shelter in a deep cave system where they could rest while remaining hidden from aerial observation. Inside the cave, Colonel Thompson gathered the team to assess their situation. They were still deep in enemy territory with at least 50 miles to travel before reaching the extraction point. Enemy forces knew approximately where the shots had originated and would be focusing their search efforts on that area. The next 24 hours would determine whether they escaped successfully or became casualties of their own success. Sarah cleaned and maintained her rifle while they waited for darkness. The weapon had performed flawlessly during the mission, and she wanted to ensure it would continue to function properly if they encountered enemy forces during their escape. Her teammates prepared their own equipment and reviewed intelligence updates that James had intercepted from enemy communications. The intercepted messages revealed the devastating impact that losing the 3 generals had on enemy morale and operations. Units throughout the region were reporting confusion about orders and uncertainty about their strategic objectives. Some commanders were requesting permission to withdraw their forces to more defensible positions, indicating that the enemy's entire military strategy was collapsing. As evening approached, the team prepared to continue their escape journey. They would need to cross several enemy checkpoints and navigate through areas where search patrols were actively hunting for them. The route to their extraction point led through some of the most heavily defended territory in the region. The first checkpoint appeared abandoned when they approached it after midnight. Enemy soldiers had apparently been reassigned to search duties, leaving only minimal security at fixed positions. The team slipped past without incident, but they knew that subsequent checkpoints would likely be more heavily defended. Their luck ran out at the 3rd checkpoint, where alert guards spotted movement in the darkness. A brief firefight erupted as Sarah and her teammates engaged multiple enemy soldiers while trying to break through the checkpoint. David was wounded in the shoulder during the engagement, but the team managed to overcome the guards and continue their escape. Sarah provided covering fire with her rifle while her teammates treated David's wound and prepared to move. Her precision shooting eliminated several enemy soldiers who were trying to flank their position, demonstrating that her skills were just as effective in close combat as they were at extreme range. The gunfire at the checkpoint alerted other enemy units in the area, and the team soon found themselves being pursued by several search teams with tracking dogs. They used every evasion technique they had learned, including crossing streams to break their scent trail and moving across rocky terrain that wouldn't show footprints. James managed to contact their extraction team and request an emergency pickup at an alternate location closer to their current position. The new extraction point was still 30 miles away, but it offered a better chance of reaching safety given their current circumstances and David's injury. The pursuit continued throughout the night as enemy forces tried to tighten their search perimeter around the area where the team was believed to be hiding. Sarah and her teammates moved carefully through the darkness, using night vision equipment to avoid detection while making steady progress toward the extraction point. Dawn brought increased enemy activity as helicopters resumed their search operations. The team was forced to take shelter in another cave system while aircraft passed overhead repeatedly throughout the morning. They could hear enemy ground forces searching nearby areas, sometimes coming within a few hundred yards of their hiding place. By afternoon, they were within 10 miles of the extraction point when they encountered their most serious obstacle yet. An enemy patrol had discovered their trail and was following their exact route with tracking dogs. The team would need to fight their way out, or find another way to lose their pursuers before reaching the extraction zone. Colonel Thompson made the decision to split the team temporarily. He would lead David and James on a direct route to the extraction point, while Sarah and Marcus created a diversion to draw the pursuing patrol away from the main group. It was a risky plan, but it offered the best chance for everyone to reach safety. Sarah and Marcus moved to a position where they could engage the pursuing patrol from an elevated position. Sarah's precise rifle fire and Marcus's explosive charges created enough chaos to convince the enemy that the entire team was making a last stand in that location. While enemy forces concentrated on their position, the rest of the team was able to reach the extraction point safely. The diversion worked perfectly. But Sarah and Marcus now found themselves surrounded by enemy forces, with limited ammunition, and no clear escape route. They would need to use every skill they had learned to break out of the trap and reach the extraction point before the helicopters arrived to take them home. Sarah's final shots of the mission eliminated the last threats between them and freedom. She and Marcus ran through enemy lines under cover of smoke grenades, reaching the extraction point just as helicopters appeared on the horizon. The entire team was aboard and lifting off within minutes, finally safe after one of the most successful special operations missions of the war. As they flew toward friendly territory, Sarah looked back at the mountains where she had made 3 impossible shots that changed the course of history. The small-town girl who had learned to shoot tin cans with her grandfather had become one of the most effective snipers in military history. Her success had proven that determination and skill mattered more than gender in the elite world of special operations. The mission's impact became clear in the days that followed. Enemy forces throughout the region began surrendering or retreating without their experienced leadership. The war that had seemed unwinnable just days before began turning in favor of Allied forces. Sarah's 3 shots had eliminated not just 3 enemy commanders, but the strategic vision and tactical expertise that had made enemy forces so effective. Sarah returned home to a hero's welcome, though the classified nature of her mission meant that few people would ever know the full story of what she had accomplished. She was awarded the highest decorations for valor and became an inspiration for other women considering military careers. Her success opened doors that had been closed to women for generations. Years later, when military historians studied the turning points of the war, they always mentioned the day when 3 enemy generals were eliminated by a single sniper in the mountains. Some called it luck, others called it skill, but Sarah knew it was the result of years of preparation, training, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. She had proven that when the mission is critical and the stakes are highest, the most important qualities are courage, precision, and the determination to succeed against impossible odds.